How to get to the Galapagos Islands, a step-by-step guide for first-time Galapagos travelers. If you're planning a trip to the famed Galapagos Islands, this video has everything you need to know as it relates to going to and coming back from Darwin's archipelago. Essential things to know. Unless you're already in Ecuador, making your way to the Galapagos is going to be a multi-leg travel event. You'll first have to take an international flight to get to the country of Ecuador, and then you'll need to take a domestic flight out to the islands. Here are a few essential things to know. There are no direct international flights to the Galapagos. To get to the Galapagos Islands, you must first take an international flight to either the city of Quito or Guayaquil in Ecuador, which is the country that the islands belong to. Once in Quito or Guayaquil, you must take a domestic flight out to the Galapagos. Recently, flights to the Galapagos have been added from the Ecuadorian coastal city of Manta, but please check flight schedules with the airlines as these flights don't operate daily. The only way to get to Galapagos is by air. Air travel is the primary means to reach the Galapagos Islands. Private yachts can sail to the islands, but the journey lasts around 3 days. There are no commercial sea routes to the Galapagos from the mainland. Major airlines like Avianca and LATAM operate daily flights, usually departing in the morning out to the islands and returning back to the continent in the afternoon. Direct flights from Guayaquil to the Galapagos Islands take just under 2 hours, and there are multiple direct flights every day. Direct flights from Quito to the Galapagos take just over 2 hours, but there are typically only 1 or 2 options daily. Most flights to the Galapagos from Quito stop in Guayaquil before continuing to the Galapagos. Layovers in Guayaquil usually last 40 to 50 minutes where passengers stay on board during refueling. Remember to account for the time zone changes when traveling to the Galapagos, as you'll gain an hour en route and lose 1 hour when you return to the mainland. Make sure you're flying to the correct island in the Galapagos. There are 2 main airports in the Galapagos Islands: Baltra Island Airport, code GPS, and San Cristobal Island Airport, code SCY. While Isabela Island also has an airport, code ISA, it is only for inter-island flights via a local Galapagos airline called Emetebe. Be sure to select the right airport based on your cruise departure or endpoint, or based on your booked hotel location, in order to avoid the common mistake made by many travelers of booking their Galapagos flights out to the wrong island. Baltra Island Airport is officially called Seymour Galapagos Ecological Airport, and it serves the island of Santa Cruz. To get to Santa Cruz Island from the airport, you must first take a short 5-minute bus ride to the Itabaca Channel, and then a short ferry ride across the channel. Once on Santa Cruz Island, you will need to take a bus or a taxi to the main port town of Puerto Ayora, which takes about 1 hour. Puerto Ayora is the archipelago's central hub and features attractions like the Charles Darwin Station, the Galapagos National Park, and various hotels, bars, and restaurants. San Cristobal Airport serves the town of Puerto Vaquerizo Moreno, a small port town just 5-minute bus or taxi drive from the airport. Don't book your flights to Galapagos before you have booked your cruise or hotel stay. Avoid booking your Galapagos flights before finalizing cruise or hotel arrangements. Many travelers make the mistake of securing flights early in order to take advantage of the airline offers, only to find out their cruise dates or hotel availability does not align, or they have chosen the wrong airport for their desired travel plans. This often leads to costly changes and rebookings, which could have been avoided in the first place. Most cruise providers reserve specific flights for their trips, expecting guests to use these for coordinated arrivals with other passengers and with the supplies for their ships. The key is to lock down your Galapagos itinerary first and then book flights that align with your plans. Leave some buffer time between your international and domestic flights. If you're not planning to do any traveling in continental Ecuador prior to your Galapagos trip, plan to arrive in the country at least 2 days before your Galapagos adventure to account for potential flight delays or lost luggage. This buffer ensures you can still reach the Galapagos in time if there are any issues with your international flights. This is particularly important with cruises, as missed cruise departures often means you will not be able to rejoin the cruise at a later time. While less critical for hotel stays, an early arrival allows for a full, unhurried experience. Even if you only have an extra day in Ecuador, take the opportunity to explore its rich heritage, including colonial Quito, indigenous cultures, historic haciendas, the Andes Avenue of the volcanoes, and the country's diverse natural landscapes. Where to fly into Ecuador, Quito or Guayaquil? The country of Ecuador has two international airports, one in its capital city of Quito, located in the Andes Highlands, and the other in the coastal city of Guayaquil, located at sea level. To reach the Galapagos Islands, you must first fly into either Quito or Guayaquil, Ecuador, before taking a domestic flight out to the Galapagos. For most people, we highly recommend flying into Quito for its numerous surrounding attractions and activities. There is simply a lot more to do in and around this city if you plan to explore a little bit of Ecuador before or after a Galapagos trip. However, if you must avoid going to elevations of 9,000 feet or 2,800 meters, and therefore cannot travel to Quito, then consider flying to Guayaquil instead. Quito and surrounding areas. Quito is Ecuador's capital and offers a lot of single-day and multi-day trips from the city. The city's Old Town was designated the very first UNESCO World Heritage Site. Quito Airport provides access to destinations like the Otavalo region, known for its indigenous markets, its historic haciendas, and scenic landscape. It also provides easy access to places like Papayacta Hot Springs and Spa, the Antisana Natural Reserve, or Mashpi Cloud Forest Lodge. Quito is also a gateway for the Ecuadorian Amazon, with a short flight leading to the Yasuní National Park, where a wildlife safari like no other awaits. Overall, Quito offers a more enriching experience with its diverse attractions compared to Guayaquil. Guayaquil. If high altitudes are a concern for you, then you must fly in and out of Guayaquil. Opt for well-located hotels close to the airport like the Wyndham near Cerro Santa Ana, the Hilton, or the famous 5-star hotel Del Parque. Also, if you don't have any time to spend before or after your Galapagos adventure, then flying in and out of the city of Guayaquil may be a better option. Getting to Ecuador from around the world. Getting to Ecuador from the United States. Both Quito and Guayaquil international airports receive direct flights from across the United States. Airlines with direct flights include American, flying from Miami, JetBlue, flying from Fort Lauderdale, Delta, flying from Atlanta, and United, flying from Houston. If flying from Central America, Copa Airlines has direct flights to Quito and Guayaquil from Panama City, Panama. Getting to Ecuador from Europe. Some European cities also feature non-stop international flights to Quito and Guayaquil airports, such as Madrid with Iberia Airlines and Amsterdam with KLM Airlines. Getting to Ecuador from Asia or Oceania. Unfortunately, there are no direct flights to Ecuador from Asia or Oceania. However, one of the best ways to get to Ecuador from these places is to connect via Santiago, Chile. You can do this either flying from Auckland with LATAM Airlines or from Sydney with Qantas. Once in Santiago, you can take a direct flight to Guayaquil with LATAM Airlines. Make the most of your Galapagos stay. No matter how you plan on getting to the Galapagos Islands, it should be a relaxing, carefree journey. Consider booking Galapagos trips that include domestic flights and other arrangements to take the pressure off planning and to help you in case there are any issues with the airlines. Don't be afraid to spend a few extra days in mainland Ecuador or nearby Peru before or after your Galapagos adventure. There is so much to see and do in both countries that it's worth extending your trip by a few days to make the most of your adventure. After all, your experience is what you make of it, so informing yourself and giving yourself time to relax in the destination will make your time in the region all the more memorable. Please don't hesitate to reach out to one of our expedition designers if you have any questions or if you're ready to start planning an unforgettable Galapagos adventure.